Hey everybody, welcome back to Guns and Gadgets, your premier source for Second Amendment news and analysis that the mainstream media won't cover. Today, we're talking about a lawsuit that should absolutely shake the foundation of federal gun laws in this country. And you're going to want to stick around for this one because it has to do with the NFA. But first, a big thank you to our sponsor, Blackout Coffee Company. American-owned, patriot-fueled, and roasted right here in America. If you're tired of woke corporate coffees, switch to a brand that supports our values. Use code GNG10 at checkout to save 10% on your order over at blackoutcoffee.com/GNG. Links are down below. Support freedom with every sip. All right, let's jump into this. Just days after the one big beautiful bill, the same one that nuked the $200 NFA tax for suppressors, short-barreled rifles, and short-barreled shotguns, but left the registration part intact. Yeah, that one. But just days after it passed, a powerhouse coalition of gun rights groups got together and started working on a federal lawsuit. And this follows the one big beautiful lawsuit that was filed by Gun Owners of America and Palmetto State Armory et al. There's a bunch of folks on that one too. But this one's different. Now, this was officially filed yesterday in the Eastern District of Missouri. And this isn't just a small case. This is a coordinated legal attack on the very structure of the National Firearms Act. Who's behind the lawsuit? Well, Second Amendment Foundation, Firearms Policy Coalition, the National Rifle Association, and the American Suppressor Association, plus two individual plaintiffs and a black-owned gun shop out of Missouri called Prime Protection STL. They're all saying the same thing. The NFA is unconstitutional now, always has been, but even more so now that the tax is gone. Let's break it down. The National Firearms Act of 1934 was originally justified as a tax law. That $200 tax, it was meant to discourage ownership of certain guns like machine guns, SBRs, and suppressors without banning them outright. The Supreme Court upheld the NFA in the Sonzinski versus U.S. case, but they upheld it as a revenue measure. But here's the kicker. That justification no longer exists. Thanks to the One Big Beautiful Bill, now the One Big Beautiful Act, effective January 1st, 2026, the taxes on most NFA items except machine guns and destructive devices was officially going to be $0. And that means we've got a regulatory scheme with no tax to support it. It's kind of like the IRS demanding your fingerprints and a photo before you donate to a church. There's no tax, but they want all your information anyway. Now, the lawsuit argues that since the tax is gone, Congress no longer has a constitutional leg to stand on. The NFA can't fall back on the Commerce Clause either. The Eighth Circuit already ruled back in U.S. versus Hall that the NFA's registration requirements cannot be justified under interstate commerce. So where does that leave the ATF? Up a creek without a paddle. But it gets even better, or worse, depending on which side you're on. The plaintiffs are also hitting the NFA from the Second Amendment angle. Under the Bruin decision, if a regulation burdens a protected arm, the government has to prove a historical tradition for that restriction. They argued, and they're right, that suppressors are protected arms. They reduce hearing damage. They're legal in 42 states. There are over 4.5 million registered suppressors in the United States. And as I covered in a video that'll pin above, even the federal government admitted in a case just a few weeks ago that suppressors fall under the Second Amendment. The DOJ has changed their tune on that. And what about short-barreled rifles? Well, they're also protected. They're not more dangerous than any other pistol or rifle. There's nearly 1 million of them registered in the NFA right now. They're rarely used in crime, and Congress didn't even plan to regulate them at first. SBRs were added almost by accident in 1934 just to avoid taxing hunting rifles. That's not a joke, that's in the legislative history. Now, the plaintiffs slam home the point that there's no historical tradition of requiring Americans to register their lawfully owned arms. King George didn't even do that. It's invasive, burdensome, and it delays lawful ownership by months, even years in some cases. It's a registry in everything but the name, and it threatens felony charges and huge fines if you don't comply. Chris Brown, one of the plaintiffs, wanted to sell his suppressor to a friend but didn't because of the mountainous ATF NFA paperwork. Alan Mayville wanted to buy a suppressor, but he's waiting until this legal mess is cleared up. And Prime Protection STL, they've never sold a single NFA item because of their customers, especially the black community, don't trust the government to collect all that personal data. And who can blame them? Now, this lawsuit asks the court to, 1, strike down the NFA's registration scheme for suppressors, SBRs, and as unconstitutional under both the taxing clause and the Second Amendment. Number 2, bar the ATF from enforcing any regulations tied to those items. Number 3, grant permanent injunctive relief so that law-abiding gun owners can finally exercise their rights without federal harassment. If successful, this lawsuit could mean the end of Form 1s and Form 4s for most NFA items. No more months-long waits, no more fingerprinting, no more treating gun owners like criminals just for wanting a quieter rifle. It would be a landmark victory for the Second Amendment. This case was just filed yesterday on August 1st, so it is very early. But with this legal firepower behind it and the foundation laid by the Bruin decision, we could see real movement fast. I'll be tracking the lawsuit every single step of the way, so subscribe to Guns and Gadgets to stay in the loop. If you're sick and tired of the NFA treating law-abiding gun owners like you and I like felons, then hit that subscribe button, hit the like button, and share this video with every gun owner you know. We need to keep the pressure on. And consider supporting groups like FPC, SAF, ASA, or the National Rifle Association. They're in it for the fight for all of us. And before you go, do not forget to check out Blackout Coffee Company. And don't forget to use code GNG10 to make your patriotic mornings patriotic again. You're not just drinking coffee, you're supporting the fight for freedom. That's it for today, folks. Stay armed, stay informed, and as always, stay free. I'll see you on the next one. Take care.